Okay, we are ready, Chris. The floor is yours.
Yay. Well, hello. So this is like a whole different group of people than from the last one.
Yep.
You guys don't have to be muted. If you don't want to be muted, you can chime in at any time. But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about dissecting digestion, and you need to exit. Sorry, my daughter's in the room. Okay.
Hey, Chris, make sure you, since it's a new group of people, make sure you introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, I guess you guys don't know who I am.
Yep.
So my name's Chris Fuste. I am now a part of Team Center Stage Figures and Physiques. Very excited. I've known Tina for a long time. I've been in the health and wellness business from 2000-ish, so quite a while. I've done everything from sell gym memberships to teach yoga to fitness classes and personal training, all the stuff. Also, I'm a trained massage therapist. So that's just to kind of qualify myself. I'm in the 500-hour teacher training program right now for yoga. So I've been doing some form of yoga for about 15, 16 years now. And I just think yoga is awesome. There's so many benefits to it. I wouldn't consider myself the typical yogi. I'm not one that's all woo-woo and, the weird stuff. But I think it's really good for just life, and especially for us bodybuilders. And I, what we're kind of get into tonight, there's so much about the physical practice of yoga and what we can do physically with our body, but there's so many other benefits too. So I'm going to kind of dive into that. So if you guys are not muted and you want to chime in, what are some, are you just interested in digestion and yoga, or are there things that you struggle with, like IBS or constipation, that you feel comfortable sharing?
All my clients should feel comfortable sharing, because they have to share it with me on a regular basis.
All poop.
All we talk about is poop.
Right. That's how I knew I was like getting old, when I started talking about poop all the time, just like my grandma was like, oh my God, what happened? So whether you poop or you don't poop, or whether it's bloating, cramping, 10 to 15% of the entire world actually suffers from IBS, which I think is pretty staggering. Like that's a lot of people. I'm sure our population here in America probably has a huger, amount of those people that struggle with IBS. I know my daughter struggles with it. My ex-husband has it. It's not a very comfortable thing to have to deal with. And I'm going to show my age here, but I'm a child of the 80s. And in the 80s, everybody in the 80s movies had ulcers, right? So Tina, you probably remember that. Like somebody was always carrying around like a jar of Tums, and they were drinking Pepto. And once we found out that ulcers were caused from stress, the amount of people that struggle with ulcers dropped dramatically, right? So the body gets smart, the brain gets smart. So we're not allowed to be stressed. When we figure out what happens when we get stressed, then the body starts to do other things. So now, we have things like IBS, bloating, the cramping, the constipation, all that other stuff. And then there's other things that our body starts to do too, besides those things. Low back pain is one of them, chronic headaches, anxiety. And I think now in this day and age, everybody's just so quick to be put on meds, right? So, or, we get surgery. We don't even really discuss, the doctors don't really discuss what the hell is going on in your life there. Are you stressed out? So I think, even before we get into the physical side of what yoga can do, we have to take a step back and look at stress. And for me, I don't know if I'm lucky or cursed, but for my body, I know there's two things that happen when I get stressed. I get panic attacks and my lower back starts to hurt. But for some of us, it's, this digestive stuff. So, superficially, there are things that we can do in the physical yoga practice. You can just go to a yoga class and you're going to work on your digestion without even knowing that you're working on your digestion. But there's other things that we can do as well. So I feel like I'm kind of rambling. There's a lot going on in my background, so I'm trying not to get distracted by people getting in trouble. I'm not in trouble, but my kids are, it sounds like.
That's why I wear this. I can't hear what's going on around me.
Having enough technical difficulties tonight as it is. So, one thing I know for sure that massage school taught me is the whole body is connected. And you guys probably already know that anyway, but you know, we don't necessarily think that our pinky toe is connected to our the crown of the head, but in some way or fashion, every part of the body is connected and it works together. So the only reason I say that is because the nervous system is directly responsible to are related to our digestive system. So, you know, when we're super stressed out and the nervous system is all whacked out, and, you know, we're panicky and, you know, think about what that does to digestion too. So the act of digestion is called peristalsis, and that is the movement of food through the intestines. So before you even sit down to eat, there's things that you can do. And, you know, in a perfect world, we would all do this, right? Like we are, you know, should be able to take 5 to 10 minutes before we have a meal to sit down and just, you know, be present and look at our food and be thankful for what's been put before us, and, you know, to take a few breaths, maybe have a drink of water, right? That's in a perfect world. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have that luxury. I'm sure that if I got up at 4:30 in the morning, I could probably carve out a little bit more time, but I like to sleep, so that's not going to happen. So for me in the mornings, my mornings look a little something like this. I get up, I have 2 cups of coffee, and then I think it's really important for me to get a lean protein, vegetables, and a good carbohydrate for breakfast. So I always have like a 3-course meal. So I do egg whites and vegetables and then oatmeal and something else. So my mornings look like me rushing around like a crazy person to make all this food, to prep my lunch, to take with me. I don't sit down to eat. I'm shoveling food in my mouth while I'm cooking it. And then I sometimes have to eat in my car because I haven't had time to finish my oatmeal. So I think my body's kind of gotten used to that. But it's probably not idealistic, right? You know, I really should probably be sitting down to eat. Tina, you could probably reprimand me for this later, but for me, it's more important to eat the good things than to sit down to eat them.
Eat the good way.
Eat the good way. Eat the good stuff, right? So, you know, and I remember bringing this up in my massage school because, you know, that's when it really started. You know, that I was really, you know, trying to pack a lot of stuff in before I got out of the door. And I brought that up to one of my teachers and I said, is this a good thing? Because I started having some weird stuff. Like my stomach was always bloated. It was always making weird noises. I just felt like distressed all the time. And that was when she was, you know, trying to drive into me that this wasn't a good thing. Well, I just deal with it because I want to make sure that I'm eating. And at this point in time, I kind of know what I can eat that's not going to set my stomach off. So usually no dairy and no, you know, like gluten or anything crazy like that. So for you guys, some things that I would say to try and do, you know, aside from try to slowly eat your food, is to be able to take a few minutes before you eat, just to sit down, right? And I mean, I'm not everybody is religious, not all of us have a religious practice, but to just be able to take a couple of breaths, right? And then just, you know, be grateful for what's in front of you, and then to try and slowly eat the food, you know? And so that brings the yoga into it, right? That mindfulness, being present, the taking the slow breaths, just to really be in the moment of what you're doing. And I think that in and of itself is going to give your body a chance to digest its food a little bit differently. As far as what you can do in actual yoga, there's a few movements. There's 3 components to how yoga can benefit your digestive system. So of course there's stress reduction, which, you know, I've just discussed. There are 2 types of poses. One's going to be one that sort of stretches and stimulates the digestion system. And then the others are going to be like twisting, that's going to sort of massage and tone. So just like massage, like if you were to go and get a deep tissue massage, when that pressure is released from the body, fresh blood is released into the body itself. So fresh oxygenated blood is why those are so important for you to do. So you can do the same thing to your internal organs. So I'm going to show you guys some things that you can physically do. But like I started off by saying, does anybody have anything that they sort of struggle with that they want to talk about? No?
Wait, here, I'll unmute. Tina, you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just relaxing in general. I have problems simply relaxing and getting a full night of sleep without interruption because I have too much energy. I can't relax.
I can vouch for that.
Tina, not Tina, the Tina that just spoke. Have you done yoga? Have you practiced yoga before?
No, I have not.
Okay. So this is all like brand new to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then just a little bit about yoga, and you know, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what yoga is. I know, and I shared this during the flexibility one. You know, I don't even know why I found out about yoga and knew that it was good. I just, you know, I was young. I think I was probably still in high school. So this is going back to the 90s. So yoga wasn't really popular at that point. It was just like, oh, this is what the hippies do. But there was something that somebody instilled in me that made me realize that yoga was going to be an important thing to do. And so I started to kind of investigate. I got a VHS cassette tape. I had no idea there was like levels, right? There's beginner, there's intermediate, there's advanced yoga. And I just got this video, I popped it in, and within the first like 5 to 10 minutes, the guy's doing headstands, and I was like, oh, this isn't, you know, for me. So, you know, as I got a little bit more educated and I started to kind of work in the fitness industry, you know, I was exposed to different styles of yoga. So there's a million different kinds of yoga. And what I'm going to show you guys tonight is more of a restorative yoga practice. I would say, if anything, like restorative yoga is sort of my baby. To me, it is like yoga for lazy people, right? You get to lay on the floor, there's pillows, there's blankets. But for people that cannot relax, at first it's going to be really hard. You know, there's a physically hard part of yoga, but the mental part of yoga that can be hard is that being still, it can sometimes make you feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin. But it's just like anything else. You know, we don't actually, in the yoga world, we don't usually call it a yoga class. It's a yoga practice. We have a yoga practice. So you're practicing yoga, you're practicing mindfulness, you're practicing breath work. So every day you're practicing getting a little bit better at something. And so, you know, not being able to sit still is, or having a hard time sitting still is going to take some time and some practice. So Tina, you have a hard time with sleeping at night?
I do. Like when I fall asleep, it feels great, but I tend to wake up randomly between 2, maybe and 3:30 in the morning, regardless of how early or how late I went to sleep.
And are you like up for the day?
No, I'll doze back off, or sometimes I'll fall back into a deep sleep, but granted, in a couple of hours, I'm probably going to have to go to work or so.
Yeah. I mean, I can completely empathize with you, because that is like, I would pay $1 million if I could just get a freaking good night's sleep every night of my life. And for me, though, it's mostly falling asleep that's really hard. So I'll give you a breath exercise that you can do that's helpful for insomnia. And I will say it might not help immediately, but I do notice probably within 10 minutes of doing it, I do eventually fall asleep. But so in yoga, we call it pranayama. It's breath work. And so what you can do to sort of relax the body and get you into more of a relaxed state for sleep is you take a breath in for 5. So you count in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You hold that breath, you count for 7. And then you breathe out, you count for 8. So it's 5, 7, 8. And you repeat that 3 times. And then you just sort of fall back into a natural pattern of breath, and it gives you an opportunity to really slow down. You're focused on your breathing. You know, it gives the body and the mind a chance to just sort of like just be. And it's something you can kind of repeat, right? And then one other thing I can suggest recently, actually, ironically, my freaking 10-year-old daughter, I went into her room. She's a very smart kid. Like I think she watches everything that I do, but like she measures out her food. When she packs her lunch, she takes 5 things every day, right? It's 5 things. So it's like carrot sticks and yada, yada, yada. She's just she's a cool kid. But I walked into her room one night about a week ago, and she had a list of things, right? So she wrote 7 a.m., wake up, hydrate, stretch, and then meditate. And I said, you meditate? She's 10. And she said, yeah, I meditate every day. I said, well, how do you do that? And she said, well, there's this app called Headspace. Well, I have this app. It's a free app. There's a paid version. I'm just doing the basic version of it right now. And you can do a 3-minute meditation, a 5-minute, or a 10 minutes. I've been doing the 5-minute every day. And I really suffer from anxiety. I started a new job. My life is very, I wouldn't say it's just a little stressful, because I'm trying to figure out my place in this position. So for me, it's all here, right? I just notice it all in my chest. So the one guy that leads this Headspace app, focuses, is that one thing you can do is think about breathing in and breathing out, and you count those breaths. So you breathe in, that's 1, you breathe out, that's 2, you breathe in, that's 3, you breathe out, that's 4. You do that until you get to 10, and then you can restart. So for people like you, Tina, and me, you know, when our mind is super busy and then you have to sit still, it gives you something to give your mind to do. So you're sort of focused, but you're also relaxing at the same time. So you may want to check out that app. It's it'll be on your just your app page. It's a little white box with an orange circle in the middle, and it's free. And you can try it out. I have found it to be extremely helpful. So I've been doing that in the morning. And just that little bit of practice, that was like a whole new concept for me. Just counting my breath to 10, it really just calms my nerves down. And I started doing it when I can't sleep too. So it's been very helpful. And I'm really touching on all of this because of how stress affects so many other aspects of our lives, and in our physical body. So I think digestion is one thing that we don't necessarily think, right? We believe that, you know, I have a food sensitivity, or I'm intolerant to this, or, you know, I'm just the kind of person that gets constipated all the time, but we don't actually think about the other things in our lives that may be causing this to happen. So, you know, try these other easy little things that you can do and see if that affects your sleep or your digestion or whatever. Heather, how about you? You got anything going on you want to share? Do you poop, Heather?
She's talking to you.
Oh, am I here? Oh, you can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how this works. I'm sorry. This is cool. Hi. I used to have, like, it would be normal for me not to go to the bathroom for like 3 days, and like that was my life. And I had to mine was more like diet. I had to make some hard decisions, like in that area. So I came on here not so much because of the diet portion. I've just been recently kind of intrigued by yoga.
Okay.
And so I know that it has like a lot of benefits to it. So I'm just I'm open to it all. I do suffer from anxiety. So I don't do yoga, but I do diaphragmatic breathing to help me. Like, but I want to incorporate like yoga. So that's.
Have you had a chance to do any yoga yet?
Yeah, I find it really expensive. So it's funny. This is so right on time for me. Because I was like, well, Heather, you have this big house. Like, you could just do it in one of the rooms and pop in a video or something. I haven't gotten there, but I've created this little Zen space for myself, like hoping that it'll kind of motivate me to do it. But I haven't done anything yet because I don't really know where to start. But I've gone to all the shops. I know like the movements and stuff. I just don't know how to do it on my own.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that you're investigating. I think yoga is really important. If nothing more for me, and I shared this in the last one we did, is I just don't have time to stretch. So for me, honestly and truthfully, the reason I got into yoga in the first place was for the flexibility aspect. But really, there's so many great things about it. It doesn't have to be a full hour. You can, do a 15, 20 minute. You can even do a 10-minute practice, just a few sun salutations. If I could suggest, trying to maybe like find a Groupon or something where you could take a couple of classes so you could be sort of touched and manipulated by a yoga instructor, I would highly recommend starting there, just maybe like 3 to 5 classes, just so you can just make sure, because what I have found is people think, and I'm one of them, right? I think I'm doing everything that the video is telling me to do. And then I'm wrong, and sometimes it's just having somebody being able to put their hands on you and tweak something in such a small way. So I would say if you can like find somewhere that you can just maybe, like, I know one of the places I teach, we offer a 2-week unlimited pass. So you can pay $25, and for 2 weeks you can take as many classes as you want. So you can kind of, you can learn a little bit, but you can also find what kind of yoga you actually enjoy doing. So it might be a good thing to look into. So start with Groupon, and a yoga studio is probably what I would go with first over a gym. Gym yoga is just different. I do both. I would rather do all yoga studio yoga just because it's cleaner and quieter and zen, you know, but whatever you can do to get into yoga, just get your hands on. And then there's some really good apps out there. If I were to suggest one, be Yoga Works. That's who I'm trained through. So maybe check that out. I think you can get on there for $15 a month. So it's pretty cheap, but the instructors are amazing. They're all very, you know, they're all anatomically driven. It's all, you know, anatomy wise, it's all very well done. And there's instructors from all over the place. So that's a good one. I know there's a bunch of other ones out there. That's just the one that I use for myself too.
And Chris also does online individual yoga coaching.
Yeah, so we're doing that.
You can do like a 30-minute thing. So that's one of the things we started offering for our clients that, you know, granted she's not there hands on, but like her and I did a session and she could very easily see where I was positioned wrong or I needed to like, you know, move something a certain way. And then that way she can kind of like focus on my specific issues or my specific body and maybe not like the entire yoga practice kind of thing. But I thought it was really helpful. So that's something else.
Yeah. And Tina, how often do you use that? Like, so you do it and then she corrects you and then like you do it for like a week or two on your own? Like, how often do you do that?
So I started off doing it with a video on my own completely. And I just jumped online with Chris so she could kind of analyze and make sure that I was doing all the flows right, you know, the positions and the flows right. So I kind of started and then had her like make sure I was doing the things the right way, the certain positions and things like that. So I actually ended up having to stop for a while because I was overstretching some of my injured areas. So, you know, but I still actually, so I'll tell you, and because I didn't tell you this, Chris, but I'm not doing the yoga practice per se, but I still do like like all the breathing and the sort of relaxation parts of it stuck with me. And so I've taken advantage of some of the things that Chris gave us in the stretches that Chris gave us in the last one that we did. And I recorded it, Heather, in case you didn't see the whole one. But, you know, I've incorporated those things and, you know, it's made a difference. And I'm a too busy to sit still person too, which is why I never did yoga. I'm like, yoga meditation or not for me. It's good. I can't sit still that long. But I found that I just loved it because you just like focus on your breathing and that just sort of centers you. And, you know, I was sort of disappointed I had to stop for a little while because I was really starting to like it. So I'm a too busy anxiety, you know, person too. And I have found that it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Before I met you, Tina, I started with yoga and I was really surprised. I fell in love with it because it got me toned. Like, I didn't even do anything. I was just doing the yoga and I was like, people were complimenting me. I was just like, I haven't even done anything. And I have like all these cool, like, it was really good. Like, so that's what got me intrigued. So I'm not so fully like into, I have some selfish reasons, or what do you call it, like vanity reasons.
But that's okay. I mean, there's nothing
that's
wrong with that.
Right?
It's got an athletic component to it, right? So, I mean, the restorative yoga is going to be a little more breathing and relaxing, but like the flow yoga is, I mean,
it's hard.
It's hard, right? So there's definitely some strength and balance and flexibility and all those things. So it's really good for you in a lot of ways. And the digestion, you know, part too.
It's just a bonus.
Yeah, I think so. And to reiterate what Chris was saying in the beginning, right? So the brain and the gut are connected. It's not in the literal sense, in the physical sense. There is an actual nerve that runs from your brain to your gut. So, you know, when you're nervous and you have butterflies in your stomach, that is your brain, you know, that is your brain talking to your stomach. And if you ever notice when you have digestive, you know, if you're constipated or you have gas or you're bloated, you notice your anxiety is probably worse. Like you just feel worse. And it's because those two things are connected and talking to each other. And really it determines sort of our, you know, and our entire immune system is in our gut, like literally the entire immune system is in your gut. So, you know, having that kind of gut health and looking at gut health in the bigger sense, right? And knowing that if my brain is all over the place and I have anxiety and I'm stressed, that's going to affect my gut. That's going to affect my immune system. That's going to affect, you know, every other aspect of your your well-being, to be perfectly honest. And that is why I focus so heavily on gut health with my clients, competing or not competing, because if there's no gut health and we can't like kind of fix this part here, then the rest of it is sort of, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't, if we can't get this part straight, then we're, the rest of it's gonna be a whole lot more difficult.
Right. And I was trying to just get a feel, and I know this is going to be recorded too, so people that are not online, and I'm sure, Tina, you probably tell this to your clients, but I was going to say, there's also that little thing at the bottom. Most of you guys use MyFitnessPal, I'm sure, where you can take notes on your daily journal. And so, I would just say for anyone that does struggle with regular IBS or whatever the case may be, just to start to, notice, make those notes in that MyFitnessPal part of the section where you can leave the daily journal and see A, what you're eating, and B, make a note about what's happening in your life at the time, just so that you can start journaling in an easy way. Like, I'm not a big journaling kind of person, but it's helpful. It's a tool that you have right there, and it can take you a couple of seconds just to say, well, my kid's being a dick today, so that's going on, and
Their face.
write that down. Right. So I mean, whatever the case may be. So like I said, I'm gonna show you guys a couple of things, and you're just gonna bear with me for 1 second because I'm gonna have to move my phone. But I wanted to show you more of a restorative practice. Where did I write this down? So what you'll want for this practice is, if you have yoga blocks, those are always helpful. I tell anybody getting into yoga to just go spend the money. You can get them at Marshall's. That's where I would get them. They make two sizes. One's a little thicker. I like the thicker ones. But you can get the skinny ones too. They're fine. Whatever.
And they have them at Five Below. They're $5 at Five Below, and $5 at TJ Maxx, and $5 at Marshall's. Yeah. And everywhere. They're $5.
They're $5. Right.
$5.
Get 2 of them, maybe 3 if you want to get real crazy. The Five Below ones are they're a little thinner. So like I said, I like one that has a little bit more girth. That's a terrible word, but that's what it is. So you want 2 blocks. You'll want a blanket or like a beach towel or something. You don't even need a yoga mat, but so I'm gonna go through this with you really quick. Hang tight. I'm moving you guys to my floor. Okay. So I have actually brought a pillow too. So here's my 2 blocks. I have 2 actually different blocks. One is just the Five Below. This is a Five Below one. This is a cork block. So this is actually a $20 block. I don't like it. I think it's too hard and it's skinny, so it's just not my favorite, but it's good for what I'm going to use it for today. So a couple of things that you would want to start with. I'm going to strip down for you just so you can kind of see how the body works. There's something called cat-cows. So in a cat-cow, you would be on all 4s, and you would just kind of think about, I always say, like, you don't want to drop your udders, so you still want to keep a light belly connection here just to keep the spine protected, but you would inhale to lift and lengthen, so you're stretching out the belly muscles, the abdomen area, and then you would reverse it on the out breath, and you would take this like cat back stretch. So you're lengthening the belly as you breathe in, and then you sort of compress it as you breathe out. And so these are really good. They're really good for getting the spine moving. And it's also really, you're starting to kind of get things happening here in the belly. And then one thing you'll always hear is twists. So Heather, you'll probably have heard those in your yoga classes, but any kind of twist. So if you think of your midsection like a wet washcloth and you're kind of wringing it out, this is what I was talking about with the deep tissue massage. So in a regular, like a vinyasa flow class, you might have a twist like this where you have your opposite hand on the floor and you're twisting into the thigh. Or just sort of laying down on the ground where you pull your knees into the chest and kind of roll off to the side. I'm not sure you guys are actually going to be able to see me do this, but so knees into the chest. So this is your compression. You're compressing the knees into the belly. So anything that you can do, this is actually the farting pose, right? It's called Apanasana. So if you are very bloated or gassy, this is a really good one. And then
I use that.
Yeah. You can do it one leg, so it would be half the pose. If you're going to do one leg at a time, you always start on the right leg. Okay, so that's your ascending colon. You're massaging ascending colon. So right leg always comes in first, and then the left, because you don't want to mess that shit up. Okay. All right. So we've got a blanket, and I have a little Mexican blanket. This is what they call the yoga blankets. We're going to start by doing a belly down twist. I'm just going to kind of show you this. So you will take your 2 blocks, stack them one on top of each other. And in a yoga room, you would have a yoga bolster, but we don't have that tonight. So we're going to use my pillow. So you can't really see, but it's on a ramp. So you're on a little bit of a ramp here. So I'm messing my shit up because I'm going to start on my left side, but this is just so you can see me. But to start on your right side, you want to bump the right hip all the way next to your pillow. And then you can have your blanket between your knees. That's what I like to do. I don't like to have my knees touching each other. What you want to do is think about taking both of your headlights towards the pillow, and then you can kind of lay down here. And then you would stay here for a pretty good amount of time, like 5 to 10 minutes per side. So you're in this twist. The belly, there is a connection with the belly and the low back. You would just kind of like rest here and just breathe, right? So this is a very simple, nice restorative twist. And then of course you would want to switch and do the other side. So if you're like short on time, 5 to 10 breaths, think about that before you switch, but that's a really good one. So you got your Apanasana pose. Remember that one. So that's both knees into the chest, getting some compression. The other thing you can do is child's pose. Everybody likes child's pose. With your support though, you would take your 2 blocks, lie them on their flattest surface, okay? And then you would just take your blanket or your pillow, put it right on top, and then you're gonna come down. So the blanket or the pillow is right in between my thighs. So when I come down, my actual belly, my gut is right on top of that blanket, and you're pushing your belly into it, not forcing your belly down, but you got that compression action happening between your belly and the pillow. And then you just kind of come here. It also feels really good on the lower back. But you're getting that nice compression feeling in with the belly. All of those things, you want to hold those for like 5 to 10 breaths minimum, 5 to 10 minutes ideally. And then regular yoga practice would be a seated twist. So this is to me what I call a twofer. So you're getting a 2 for 1. I always said when I was teaching this, this is your key to 6-pack abs. It's not really, but it helps. Okay. So I know you can't totally see what's happening with my legs, but just to like walk you through it. So if you were to sit fully straight up with your legs straight out, we call this staff pose. You would bring one foot in with it flat on the floor and then just cross it over. If you can keep both of your butt cheeks on the floor, you can fold the bottom leg. So that's one thing that I can do, but most people can't do that to start. So you just make sure that your the knee that's crossed over, that foot's flat on the ground. You inhale, lift up nice and tall. This is always going to stay really long. So you're not going to crouch down like a turtle trying to hide in its shell. You want to be really lifted, like there's a string from the ceiling kind of holding your head up. You'll bring the arm across the body and you twist your chest to your thigh. So every time you breathe in, you would get tall, and then every time you breathe out, you would twist a little further. Idealistically, 5 times. So you would lift up to breathe in, breathe out, twist back a little bit more. And then of course you would switch to the other side. And then finally, what I would always say to try and do once or twice a week is legs up the wall. So you just kind of bump your hip up to the wall, roll back onto your forearms, and then just scoot the legs up the wall. How the hell is this going to help your digestion? Well, I mean, it's the most relaxing pose ever. And then you sort of open up here through the belly and the gut too. So there's more than one benefit for what we're doing. We want to think about reducing stress, being able to stay in the moment and breathe, and of course, you know, just opening up in the front of the body. So, I mean, those are just some simple basic poses for what you can do digestive-wise. Do you guys have any questions? Tina, how about you? My Tina, Paratino.
Oh, me? I didn't know which Tina you meant. No, I mean, those are that. I think that the one pose that I did in the one yoga class, I think I told you, I don't remember the name of it, but it was, I was standing on one leg with one foot across, and then it was like this with the knee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yes. That was a really twisty, balancy pose. So whether or not that was going to help my digestion, I felt like it might. If I could stand up long enough for it to happen.
It would help. I mean, because no matter what, you're still compressing, you're still doing that, like, you know, wringing out of the midsection. So the second you come out of it, then fresh blood gets into the body. So my only problem with that's one of those poses that people screw up so much. Yeah. So, the hips like to come out of alignment. So that's one that I probably, would save for another day.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing any of it anymore, so.
How many times can you, so like if you wake up in the morning and you do that, is it like, how much is too much?
I don't think there is. I mean, aside from overtraining, I don't think you can do too much yoga. I think you'd have to probably be doing it all day, every day to be doing too much of it. You want to have balance with everything. And the thing with yoga too is there's actually 8 limbs to yoga. The movement is just one part of it. The breath is another part. There's other parts of yoga. So just doing the physical practice is only one part of it, Heather. So you can do as much of it as you want, I would say. But of course you want to just watch what's happening in your own body, because you can overdo it. Like Tina said, she's got like too much flexibility, so it wasn't good for her body. Pregnant women have a lot of elastin in their body, so they can overstretch their body too. So you want to just be smart about it. And if it starts to feel like it's too much, then it's too much. But I don't think you can really do too much of it, as long as you're not doing power yoga for 7 hours a day.
And I think the kind of stuff you're talking about, with the restorative yoga, or even, and what I came to realize is that you don't have to do an hour-long practice. You don't even have to do a 30-minute practice. Once you learn some of the, like a flow or the poses or just the breathing, right? If you just, for 5 minutes, do the legs up the wall before you go to bed, like Tina, like that's 10 minutes, and it sounds silly, but it is. It helps to like relax you. It lets all the blood sort of, flow out of your legs and like, into your body. And, you could just use little bits and pieces of it. And that's what because I can't do the whole thing anymore, but I still use like the little bits and pieces to help me stretch, or, the things that I can use. I don't think you can overdo it if you're doing it. And like, you get like Heather, if you get up in the morning and do 10 minutes of breathing, and then, at lunch or when you get in your car after work, just to kind of like, kind of center yourself before you go into the next, phase of whatever you're doing for the day, like those kinds of things. And you can use those in bits and pieces.
Yeah. Well, and I had to remind myself too that, when I am doing restorative, which I don't get to take it that often because I'm the only person in this area that freaking teaches it. But when I do get the opportunity to teach it, I have to remind myself, like, this is still yoga. The breathing it's still yoga. The meditation is still a part of yoga. So there's a lot of things that yoga brings to the table that we don't necessarily identify as being yoga. But yeah, I just think it's a one-stop shop for so many things. Other Tina, that doesn't belong to me. What are you thinking? Do you have any other questions? Sorry, I keep making you sit up.
I don't have any other questions. I like the examples that you gave and the techniques. I will definitely try using them before I go to sleep, and even when I wake up. I know a couple, like one that you did, actually do something like that after I stretch, or after I work out, just to help me relax and stretch my muscles out after, especially a good leg day, but I've never really focused, I guess you could say, on the actual focus to relax.
Yeah.
I did it more so just to stretch.
Right.
But not purposefully to relax and breathe properly.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's sometimes just a matter of changing your perspective. When I was doing more active personal training, the big thing was with chest press, bench press. And I would, try to tell my clients to think more about, bringing their triceps in. And this goes for yoga too, like doing a chaturanga or like a tricep push-up position. You got to kind of bring your elbows in a little bit closer. Just thinking about using your triceps more than using your chest might help work on form a little bit better. So just sort of changing your perspective of why you're doing things might actually help a little bit. So, when you're doing that stretch, just to maybe stay there and take those five breaths. And every time you breathe out, just think about relaxing something else, relaxing my face, relaxing my jaw, like whatever. And just, maybe slowly ease into it that way. But for you, I think really getting into that Headspace app, I would highly recommend doing that, and practice that breathing at night before you go to bed. I mean, those are gateway drugs to getting into real yoga, and I think it'll be helpful. Yeah. And Lainey, you're just popping back on, right? Yeah. All right. Do you poop, Lainey?
I mean, not every day.
Not today? What?
Not every day.
Oh, not every day.
It makes my heart hurt when people don't poop every day. Just because I've been there and I know, and I think the fact that I think I've literally only have the one time right after surgery where I didn't poop in the last year and a half, and it was the most miserable two days of my life. And so I think back to how we walk around sort of feeling like this is just normal to feel this way. And because that's your normal. And I know there's a lot of doctors or a lot of people that say, everybody's got their normal. Well, it's not normal. It may be your normal, but it is not healthy to not have at least one bowel movement every single day. Your body is actually designed, it is supposed to have 2 to 3 every single day if you're going properly, right? So if that's not happening, if your normal is every other day or 3 times a week, or it's not, there's something else going on that's causing that. And because I've been to probably 5 GI specialists, in the last 15 years, and they want to tell you have IBS and here's a drug, to help your spastic colon, or go on anti-anxiety meds that'll solve the problem, and whatever, you cut out all the foods and your gut still hurts, and it's so you have to, and trust me, I was like, oh, it's not stress, it's the wheat, it's the gluten, and it's the dairy, right? And so yet you cut all that shit out and you still feel like crap, right? And so until I was able to it was a multitude of things to get it under control, but really I think one of the biggest things is stress, but it is also diet, right? Because again, it's from here to here is the most important part of your entire body, and it's your head to your gut. And if you can get those things kind of in alignment, really everything else just feels so much better. So that's why I work, so hard to make sure my clients are either de-stressing, sleeping, and pooping. That's going to be our next team tank tops. It's going to be eat, sleep, poop, I don't know, life is good or something like that. But because it's just, to me, it's just the most important thing ever. But
Lainey, you'll probably get a chance to go back and listen to all of this at some point, but we really, mostly what I touched on at the beginning was just the stress and how that affects so much. And not just pooping or not pooping or whatever, but just to being able to identify the stress levels in our lives and how that can affect other things. So yeah, for not being able to poop, if you go back, there's a few things. Anything where you're twisting your body should help to literally move things along. So just thinking about your stomach being a wet washcloth that you're wringing out. So any kind of twist where you're hugging your knee to your chest, or even laying on your back and you bring your knees to the chest and sort of let them move off to one side and then going the other way. Just remember, you always want to start right to left, right side first, always right. Okay. That's your ascending colon, and you don't want to start on the other side. So yeah, you just want to make sure you do that. But I think, that might help you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else?
Any other questions on anything yoga or digestion and yoga and stress, since we're here and we have 15 minutes left? Tina, are you good?
Yes, I'm good. I was just thinking, because I know when we first started, I was going once a day. And after the competition, now that I'm in reverse dieting, I've been going twice a day, and I've had way more gas and bloating. And I'm thinking okay, something's wrong with me. But hearing you say you're supposed to be going at least twice a day, 2-3 times, I'm like, well, maybe my body's just getting to normal.
And and for you, right? So, and when you're on a competition diet, or it's a whole nother animal. Everything will slow down. It is entirely possible that you stop going every single day. Your entire metabolism slows down. You're eating way less food. There's just not as much to move through the digestive system. Most competitors are wolfing down their food and not taking the time to think and breathe and eat the food in little tiny bites. And, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So then reverse diet, right? You're adding volume back in, you're eating foods you probably weren't eating before because you didn't have the calories for them. So some of the bloat and digestive issues is volume. Some of it's probably foods you've added back in that you maybe weren't eating as much of as we got closer to the show. So that's why, a lot of the things that start to come out, like the heavier dairies and ice creams and things like that, I always caution people to kind of let's bring those back in slow. But yeah, it's going to take your body, you will adjust, right? And so the fact that you're going multiple times a day is a good thing. And hopefully, we'll monitor kind of the bloating and stuff. And that could be a dietary thing based on the foods you've reintroduced. But the going multiple times a day, it's a good thing. It means your metabolism is picking back up. It means things are moving the way that they should. But yes, ideally the human body is meant to eliminate 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah. Tina, how long have you been, or are you post-comp?
Let me see. I would say, wow, I don't even think it's been a month.
It's March 23rd. So
okay, you're fresh. You're still freshy.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to feel normal after my show, and that was in July. I would say just since I've been working with Tina in the last, 6 weeks, I feel like a normal human being again. Like the last year has been really rough. But I can no longer eat peanut butter, and I can't eat a lot of dairy anymore. Like I can't even do Greek yogurt. I've had to switch to a vegan protein. Like after this last show, like everything changed. And it probably could be a little bit of age too, but I had eliminated so much that when I tried to bring it back, my body was like, no. And it's probably, I don't know if it's ever going to go back, but.
Well, and that's another thing too, to be said for, if we're going to kind of go that route, but the whole restricting certain food groups, like when you take out all dairy and you take out all wheat and gluten and you take out fruit and you take out all these things and you only eat these 5 foods for 3 months, then so things can happen when you take out whole food groups for long periods of time. Your body stops producing the enzymes to be able to digest those things, and things like dairy and wheat and gluten, those are the proteins that are in those are really they're really common ones. But the opposite can happen when you eat too much of when you eat, for instance, eggs are really common, chicken's really common, peanuts, if you eat too much peanut butter. So if you eat something too much, the same thing happens. Your body can actually start to have a sensitivity to foods that you eat too much, because it's like overproducing. So that's why having a variety of foods is like the most important thing that you can do. But once your body stops producing an enzyme, it never gets it back. So if you make yourself lactose intolerant, you will never not be lactose, and you will never produce the enzyme to do that. Now you can take supplements to help, and you can switch to non-dairy things. But once the enzyme that's why they have like digestive enzymes and things like that, because people just literally stop producing the enzymes for those, or they don't have enough.
What happens when with people that can't do chicken anymore?
Well, what I have found for people who overeat a food and become sensitive to it, if you take it out for a period of time, you typically can reintroduce it slowly.
Okay.
But the opposite is not as true. So it just kind of depends. You might, and you might be able to, if you start off slow, be able to add things back in, but you have to kind of, when you reintroduce foods, it has to have a very small amount, like with dairy, right? If you had cut it out for 3 months straight, you can go a half an ounce today and you don't eat it again for 3 more days. And you can take up to, depending on your motility, so how quickly, because food can actually, what you eat this morning is not necessarily what you're pooping out tomorrow, right? It's just that all depends on your motility and how quickly your body actually moves, food through. So you have to give yourself 3 days to determine what your reaction is.
Okay.
So one of the things that was so hard for me years ago when I was having so many digestive issues is that I couldn't figure out because the foods I ate today, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I would get sick every Thursday, and it was like every Thursday I was miserable and I couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, I eat the same damn thing every day of the week, except for on the weekends, I would eat other things. So my motility was so slow. It was Wednesday into Thursday that I was having the effects of what I ate on a Sunday, for instance. So, it just kind of, and that's when I was having all my digestive issues. It's not, as now I can kind of pinpoint things pretty quickly, but when you're reintroducing things, that's the best way to go. Very small amounts, like an ounce of something, 2 ounces of something, wait 3 days. You have to kind of journal it. Do you have a reaction? And then, have a little bit more of it. And you can't reintroduce 5 things at one time. Right. You can't reintroduce the peanut butter and the dairy and the ice cream and the crackers and the bread and everything all at once, because your body's going to be like, wow. And it's hard because, especially if you're, doing the competition thing or any kind of diet, as soon as the show's over, you're like, I want all the ice cream and all the peanut butter and all the everything, right? And the chocolate martinis, right? And Tina. But yeah, and so it's hard. So that's why, people end up, and then it's sort of like once you start, you don't stop. And so you just kind of end up in GI hell for a long period of time until your body you can kind of get your body settled back down.
I didn't know that you could develop a food sensitivity to chicken. So I'm like scared because I eat that every day and I have for a very long time. So
you can develop a food sensitivity to anything.
That would be awful because I don't eat much anything else. Like I do egg whites and chicken, and I can't do the white fish much anymore. And shrimp, sometimes the texture really bothers me. So it's like, it's chicken pretty much all the time. Chicken.
You don't like red meat? Or pork?
It's okay, but yeah, I could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'd rather have my fat grams other places than meat. You know what I mean? Like, so I try to save it for.
Well, but if you get 96% lean ground beef, it's got the same protein and fat content as a chicken breast. So it's.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And a different amino acid profile. So it's good to have, a variety of meats in that way,
I need to
reduce the amount of protein you take in. You don't need 550 grams of protein a day. I know that's not what you're eating.
I know.
Yeah. It's good for variety. But if you're not experiencing any issues, then, don't worry about it. Okay. Yeah.
Making sure.
Yeah.
Out there.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Anybody else that was online? I don't know if anybody else is still on. I guess everybody's still on.
They don't want to talk about poop anymore.
No. It's my favorite though. And it's funny because, so I have a client, and there's really nothing prouder to me when I get a client that starts having regular bowel movements. And I have a client, she emailed me today. So first of all, she was a cardio bunny, and she started with me about 12, maybe we're going on our 4th month now. She was eating like 1,200 calories a day and doing cardio like 550 times a week and not really weight training and, eating next to nothing. So now she's eating over 2,000 calories a day, and she started having she had never had a regular bowel movement, she said, in her whole life. So what? Yeah, at least in the last 20 years. So I get a message from her today, and she's like, it was in her check-in, and she's like, oh my God, I am going to the bathroom every single day. And then she keeps sending me these follow-up emails, and she's like, and oh my God, these things are so big. I didn't even know. She's like, I don't know how that came out. And she's tiny. She's like smaller than me. How'd that come out of my body? And then so we're going back and forth. I was like, and she's like, well, it's a good one when it actually finds its own way down the toilet before you flush. And I was like, this is the best conversation I've had all day. But yeah, it's because, her calories have increased, and she's, there's a lot, to that. She wasn't eating enough to have that kind of volume and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's an exciting day.
Yeah. I think the body is very interesting, but it's also super duper smart, and I think when we're not taking in the things that we need, whether it's physical or emotional or whatever, the body just starts to freak out in weird ways. So whether that's like not by pooping or, maybe you throw your back out making the bed, like weird stuff like that I don't think we just realize that this is a stress thing. And, one thing I don't even think I really touched on is the fact that, the body is really smart, right? So we don't have time to be stressed, and we tell ourselves, I've got all this going on, but I don't have time to deal with it right now. So we sort of stuff it in. Well, then the body gets pissed off, and then it's got to find another way to deal with it. And so that's when all these other things start, really popping up. So even if you're not going to do yoga to, work on your gut health, do it for just the mindfulness, the presence. I know Tina and Brandy are really big about, mindfulness and being, connected to the mind body connection and all of that, how it works together. So just even like taking the initiative just to do yoga for that reason, I think, especially you, Tina, that, I just empathize with you so much, because I just know you're my person. Like, I'm the same way. I don't sleep. I'm very anxious. It's gotten better, but it's just, I don't know that it's ever going to be what I want it to be. But I'm sure that it's gotten better because of yoga, and it's just such a beautiful thing. You should all do it. Go do yoga.
All right. If nobody has any questions, we'll let you guys go. Thank you guys for joining us. And this will be recorded, so I'll post the link to it a little bit later. So that way, everybody who might have missed it or didn't get the whole thing, you'll be able to get the yoga positions that Chris taught us earlier. So
yeah, if anybody has any questions or wants to see something a little bit more in detail, let us know. We'll figure it out.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks. Thank you, Tina.
Bye.